So what do you do when jobs and occupations make it difficult for you to spend quality time with your spouse, even to the point of being unable to see them for weeks on end? Well, in this episode, special guests Mike and Loida Gonzalez are going to share how they've been able to make the most of their time together, even through moments of being 1,000 miles apart from one another. So you don't want to miss this. Let's go. Hey friends, welcome to the Marriage Inside Out podcast, where we teach couples how to become mission focused, learning to work together as a team to build a solid foundation for their household. I'm Khalil, and this is my beautiful wife, the lady of the house. Yes, you all may know her as AJ, but I call her Adrian. Yes, let's make some noise, and we are very, very excited today because today on the podcast, we have our very first guests,
Yes.
Mike and Loida Gonzalez. Let's make some noise for them. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, awesome. And just to give all of you all a little background, Mike and Loida are dear friends of ours. We have known them since 2015, since we moved here to Florida. They were actually you guys were one of the first couples that we met.
Yes.
I mean, remember, seeing you all at church, and then it just from then on we just kind of been running alongside each other. So when we talk about on this podcast about having people running with you, right, having other couples to run alongside of you, that's what this couple has been for us. And I mean, they're an amazing couple, an amazing family. They have done a number of different things throughout their lives and impacted so many people. You guys have worked in youth ministry for a number of years. You all have 5 years ago gone through a recent kind of transition, and Mike now working for an MLB organization, correct? Yes, and then Loida is working as a teacher in a local high school here in Florida. And so, it's so amazing because we've had the opportunity to see them in action. Yeah. And guys, this couple, this ain't your average couple right here. I'm talking about this is a dynamic couple right here. And I mean, even just thinking of the impact that we've seen you all have on some of the youth that you all have worked with, and just to see the fruit that has come from their lives is just so amazing. I mean, if you all are affectionately known as P, Mike, and Miss G, right? Yeah. Yes. So we're just so glad to have you guys here, and we know we have a wonderful, deep discussion. But before that, let's just kind of allow the people to get to know you guys a little bit more. So just share a little bit about you all's marriage story, how long you guys have been married. Tell us about your family. Obviously, you all have just a wonderful family. So let's just let us know about Mike and Loida.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, AJ and Khalil. This has been an honor and a blessing for us to be able to participate in your podcast, and especially in this episode. From the moment that you guys began, especially, catering to the marriages around the world, it's huge for us because in our story, we have witnessed and we're living a testimony of a healthy marriage and a beautiful marriage. I mean, every day we continue to fall deeply in love with each other. And I love that. And for you guys to invite us into this conversation, we're excited. We're excited to share just the good things that the Lord has done in our marriage and how he continues to work in our marriage. To start off, yes, everything you said, it has been awesome, starting an amazing friendship with you guys. And, when we talk about, for example, our marriage, we met in college, and I mean, I could go into details. I know we're about to go into some deep stuff, and I don't want to take up too much.
We'll save the Mac story for another day.
Yeah, everyone's time. But all I know is that I fell in love with this woman that I met in college, and I just remember, first of all, thinking to myself, I want to marry a woman like that. I didn't think I could have the woman, exactly, but I really wanted to find a woman like her. And anyways, you know, we met in college. We started our relationship in college. And after college, we got married. And we came to Bradenton. We did 10 years, a little over 10 years of youth ministry. And we have a son. So I'm sorry, we've been married 13 years.
Yes.
Yep. We're going on 13 years.
We have a awesome, handsome, loving, caring son. His name is Justice. And like Khalil said, 5 years ago, the Lord had us transition out of church outreach ministry to now my wife doing ministry as a high school teacher.
Yes.
You know, because ministry follows.
Exactly.
You know? And, you know, the Lord called me back into baseball. And I am 5 years strong into, you know, professional baseball. That's a little bit of our story, 13 years strong, excited for what God has in store in the future. And really excited to dive in to the topics that we're going to discuss today.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And we know that every marriage has an identity, right? And really a foundation that we're rooted on. And that's what we strive to really encourage others to understand, that your marriage has a mission and purpose. And when I think about your marriage, I think about impact. That's a word that comes to my mind, is impact. Every person that we've had the privilege to interact with that's known you speaks about the impact your marriage, your life has had on their life. Wow. And what I want to ask you guys, when you think about your marriage, what is one word that you might use to describe your marriage when you just think about it together? Yeah.
Well, I'll lead this question.
Go ahead, lead us.
I'm going to give the word that comes to my mind, because I feel like this word means a lot to me. It's really dear to me. And for me is teamwork.
Yes.
You know, we're a team.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're one.
Yes.
And so what he feels, I feel, you know, what his dreams are, they're mine too. What mine are his too. You know, we've been united by God for a purpose. Yeah. And so even in the tough days when things are challenging, I always feel like I remember I remind myself of my role, of my calling in my family and in my marriage. So, you know, as a wife, I'm his help me, right? So I'm here to help, you know, continue to push him, to help him grow in the things that God has called him to do. Like my husband is also my, you know, he's my partner. He's a team player in my family. So he's here to push me and encourage me in the things that God is calling me to do as well. And I also picked that word because that's what I remind my son. Yeah. So, you know, in my family, I always tell my son, we're a family. We're a team. Yeah. You know, we're for you. Like, I'm for my husband.
Exactly.
He is for me. You know, I'm for my son. My son is for me. And so sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that, because we could get caught up in selfishness.
Oh, for sure.
And
for sure.
You can't really operate as a team if everyone's thinking about themselves.
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
So that's my word.
Yeah.
I love the word teamwork.
That's something we talk about all the time on this podcast.
Yes.
So certainly aligns.
That's awesome, babe. I love that you used teamwork, because even though it's not the same word that crossed my mind when you asked that question, I could see how my word is still aligned with your word.
Yeah.
And for me, when you asked that question, the first word that crossed my mind was I kind of wrestled with two, but I'll sum it up with one, and it's honoring. In the sense of, as a husband, as a father, my biggest mission throughout that day is to make sure I'm honoring my family, honoring my wife, because I know my son's watching. I know the Lord is watching, and honoring my son, you know, and I feel the same from them, you know, as well. And you know, it's very similar to teamwork, you know, as when I think about, and again, here we go talking about sports or baseball, but what's led, when we think about championship teams, what's led them to becoming champions it's honoring one another.
Exactly.
You know, it's having each other's back.
Yep.
It's lifting each other up. It's
Yeah.
when someone's down, okay, I'm gonna lift you up, or when someone's weak, I'll be your strength, and vice versa. It's just honoring one another and being a support system to one another, loving each other well,
Exactly.
you know, and being on the same page. So yeah, thank you. I think teamwork is awesome, and it's because we're a team that's continuously and consistently trying to honor one another.
Yeah.
So thank you
those
for
are
that,
powerful.
babe.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
excellent. And I mean, it's obviously we can say this because we know you all, but it certainly shows,
Right.
you know, and just how you all function first and foremost as your marriage, you know, and just the way that you all love one another, and then even how you all transfer that and the way you love your son Justice, who's an amazing young man, by the way. But you know, it's interesting, and this is kind of what we really want to really get into is just how things have really been for you all over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, we mentioned that where you all currently are, and your schedules, it causes you at times to be away from one another, and to make, you know, spending quality time with one another, it can be a challenge. I mean, with you teaching here locally, Loida, throughout the year, and then Mike during the baseball season, you know, you're having to be in all kinds of
Cities
places
around the country,
country.
uh-huh.
You know, we definitely just tell us a little bit about kind of what you all schedule is like throughout the year. Like, how often are you all away? Like, what does that look like? When are you all able to see each other? Just kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. I think for us, you know, on a regular basis with our seasons, you know, my wife from August throughout the end of May, or, you know, first week of June, she's teaching. And baseball season, you know, mostly, you know, when you include spring training, a lot of people, oh, it's 6 months. No, it's more than 6 months. It's almost 8 months.
Yeah.
Because when you include those 2 months of spring training that are also nonstop, it's 8 months of your 12-month year. And for us, basically our schedules, it's, you know, going in towards the end of January, I'm preparing for baseball season, and my wife's already teaching, and it gets a little complicated, but overall, you know, during the summer, you know, I actually in April I take off to Pittsburgh, and then when she's done with school, my son's done with school, they meet me at Pittsburgh. They spend the whole summer with me, and it wasn't always like that, you know. I'll have my wife share in a little bit, but it, you know, even when I think about ministry, when we were those 10 years of ministry, schedules got complicated as well.
Right.
You know, sometimes, and then this goes with anything, whether you're in ministry or work, you could get so consumed, especially when ministry, you're constantly catering to families, you're constantly catering to people, and ministry's kind of a 24/7 job.
Yeah.
And it could get heavy. We noticed that in baseball, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, how are you guys going to be able to do this? You get traveling, this and that. It's really not that different. You know, I think what changed, or what continued, is it's a word that has impacted us so much, and it's being intentional.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
Intentional with our time, intentional with the way that we deal with our schedules, making sure that we're intentional with each other. And I mean, when you ask us, man, talk to us a little bit about our schedule throughout the year. Yeah, you know, my wife is teaching like the regular school year. My son now, he's in full-time school, and baseball basically is from February all the way to October. Hopefully through October.
Yes.
But it's long, and then, you know, throughout the season I'm constantly traveling, you know, with the team, going to different places. They join me on some of those trips.
Right.
But just being intentional about making sure we're constantly trying to use every time possible to be together. And but yeah, schedule could be tough.
Yeah.
Our schedules could be tough.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you gave that example of intentionality, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to just react to life as it happens, and especially when you have a family and you're traveling. And Loida, like, just want to call you out just for your just role in making sure that the family is connected throughout the time. I know, like, when you guys are up in Pittsburgh for some time, you're so intentional about planning those times and those moments where you guys can get away as a family when necessary, even if it's just 1 week out of a 6-week period. Talk a little bit about why intentionality has really impacted you guys as a couple, and what advice you might give to another couple.
Yeah, well, for me, our family time, you know, even though it could be that we're 6 weeks away from each other, period at a time, we're intentional about sitting down and saying, okay, well, you know, it's April and you're going to Pittsburgh and we won't be able to join you till technically June 1st. So in between then, when can we see each other as a family for a weekend? And so we plan, because it is important.
Yeah.
You know, we are raising my son that misses his daddy, right?
Exactly.
And I miss my husband too. And so we try to see each other at least once every month until we reunite as a family. So we try to do that.
Exactly.
And thankfully we have been able to do that. And then towards the end, when we resume school schedule, we also plan, okay, well, we'll see you here and we'll see you there, so that it's not such a huge, long period of time.
No, that's good.
So we're intentional about that. And then one thing that's really important that I do want to point out is when we are together, you know, the quality of what we're giving to each other. Because we could be around people every day and not intentionally pour into our relationship. So we make it count. And that's something that we talk about all the time. And I think, you know,
that's on point. Like,
that's a key thing that's worked for us.
The word intentional is so huge for us, especially, you know, as a marriage, because we've seen how much it works.
Right.
Even if you have a schedule where it's hectic, it's busy, that doesn't mean that your relationship with the Lord cannot continue growing. That doesn't mean that your marriage cannot continue growing. That doesn't mean that your friendships cannot continue growing. And I think it's even as simple as when we're away from each other and we know, hey, I only have these little windows throughout the day to connect with you, but that's your window.
Right.
Exactly.
Like when I tell my wife, hey, honey, we could talk at this time. I have this window here. Let's connect. I know Justice is getting out of school. Let's connect right then and there. Or there's times where we already know, okay, 3 o'clock, we're FaceTiming.
Right.
She's picking up my son from school. But I know at that 3 o'clock, there's no one bugging me.
Exactly.
And I'm not letting anyone bug me. That's my time with my family. Even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, I'm intentional about that 10-minute giving it to my family. I know of many people that are 24/7s with their family, but they're not 24/7 present.
Come on.
You know,
That's
and marriages
yeah.
that still feel like, man, you know, my husband or my wife are constantly around me, but I feel like they're not around.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they're not being intentional with their time with you. And I get it. Look, we're human beings, and not every time I'm around her, you know, like I'm going to be able to be, honey. But she knows that we're intentional. And hey, this is our time. Okay, hey, son, you got to go to bed because I need my time with mommy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he knows that already, you know? And naturally, are there moments where we miss each other? We do, but we communicate those things. And then we become more intentional. Okay, you know, like let's carve out more time together, you know, or whatever, you know. Sometimes we have little date nights through the phone.
Yes.
You know, or
being creative.
That's awesome.
Hey, be creative.
You know, or
whatever you got to do.
Or I escape for the weekend and I leave my son with the grandparents.
There you go.
I'll be back. You know, we
just
try
being
to be intentional.
Intentional with time.
No, I love that. That's so good. So kind of shifting gears, you mentioned Loida, just about how, you know, in the times during the season when your husband is away, you know, your son is missing his father, and I know you're missing him too, and you're missing them. What would you all say has been one of the most challenging part of having to be away from one another at, you know, weeks on end during the year? What have been some of the most difficult moments?
Well, I could think about a couple things, you know, when you mentioned what's been the most difficult moments. I think for me as a mom, one of the most difficult things is